What's up, family? It's Passion Week, and we are looking at the events day by day that led up to Easter and the moment that Jesus changed history forever. But before we get there, today's Wednesday, and we don't have a lot recorded about Wednesday, about anything that Jesus said or did, and so Wednesday is largely known as the silent day or the quiet day. But even though Jesus didn't say much on that day, there was still a lot of important things happening in the background. We know that Jesus, all throughout that week, he was going down to Jerusalem and teaching in the temple. And then in the evenings, he was going back to Bethany, which was about a 2-mile walk from Jerusalem, and he was staying at the house of a man named Simon. And it was there that some believe this happened on Wednesday. He was reclining at a table one day with his disciples, with his friends, and a woman came in with this very expensive jar of perfume. And the disciples watch as this woman brings this incredibly valuable perfume in, and they don't know what she's about to do with it. And then they were shocked as they watched her open it and pour this perfume over Jesus' head. And we know their response because all 4 Gospels tell us about it. It says that the disciples were indignant. They were mad. They said, "What's wrong with you, woman? How could you waste this perfume? We could have sold it. We could have used this money to feed the hungry." I think they were trying to get some bonus points with Jesus because they thought that's what he would say. But he didn't. He said, "Leave this woman alone." He said, "You don't understand right now, but this is a noble thing she has done. She has honored me because she has prepared my body. She has anointed me for burial." See, even though Jesus had said that the Son of Man must die, the disciples still didn't fully get it. They didn't know that he was just a few short days away from the death on a cross. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She has prepared me." And when the story of the gospel is told all throughout the world, she will be part of that story. But one of the disciples in particular, Judas, he was very upset. See, Judas was the one that handled the money, and when he saw that expensive perfume walked in, he knew that if they sold it, he could probably pocket just a little bit and nobody would notice. And most scholars believe that it was on the Wednesday of this week that Judas decided to betray Jesus. The Gospel of Luke, it says that Satan himself entered Judas as he decided to give up his friend. Listen to how Matthew writes it in Matthew 26, verses 14 through 16. "Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, he went to the chief priests and he asked, 'What are you willing to give me? What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?' So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver, and then Judas watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over." This man that Judas had loved and learned from and done ministry with and just spent years serving with, he sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. Wednesday was quiet day because we don't know the things that Jesus said, but I imagine what he thought that day. I imagine what Jesus was thinking as he watched Judas walk out of the house, knowing where he was going. How much that must have hurt his heart to watch somebody that he loved walk away from God. I know a lot of us, we know what that's like to see. I wonder what it was like for Jesus sitting around that table in that home and probably watching his disciples just talking and laughing together, discussing the events of that week. Like, "Guys, can you believe what happened on Sunday when Jesus rode in on a donkey? I know, and man, the celebration." And maybe they caught Jesus' eye and he smiled at them, but in his heart, man, he was grieving because he knew the pain that they were about to go through. Because I got to imagine that by Wednesday, Jesus could see the cross on the horizon. He could see that he was so close to the moment of fulfilling the purpose that he had come for. Perhaps he thought about you and I and what he was about to do for us. But I imagine that Wednesday was largely silent because he probably had a lot of moments of reflection and moments of just silence being with his Father. And so that's my challenge for us today on this quiet Wednesday. To take time to reflect and to think about your own personal response to Jesus. Because we have the choice every day. We can respond like Judas or we can respond like the woman with the perfume. Because Judas went and he was willing to give up this man, this God himself, for 30 pieces of silver. And how often do we look at the world and say, "What will you give me that's better than Jesus?" And of course the answer is nothing. Nothing the world offers is better than Christ himself, but yet we still chase after the silver instead of him so often. I pray that instead we would be like the woman with the perfume And we would look at our life and we would say, what do I have that I can give to glorify God? How can I pour out value? How can I pour out myself, all of myself, to glorify God and to honor Jesus? That's a choice that we all have to make. And I pray that as we look forward to Easter this Sunday, we would choose to glorify God with our lives.